Hello community, welcome back to JinZ channel, and today, around the introduction, did you know that you can load MIDI files into FL Studio projects? Well, some of you MIDI experts might have known this, but if some of you don't know, then now you do. You can simply drag the MIDI file onto the hint bar on the top left and you're done. And depends on the MIDI source that you got, it will either load the whole thing with just a piano synth or with 4 elements. Here you will have 3 channel type options to choose from: Flex, MIDI out, and MIDI out with Fruity LSD. I would recommend using either Flex or MIDI out with Fruity LSD. MIDI out doesn't give you anything but, well, MIDI out. In my experience, both Flex and MIDI out with Fruity LSD, or LSD for short, have ups and downs. Flex sounds very energetic and very loud, while LSD sounds basically the opposite. Sometimes one would sound closer to the original, and the similarities of the sounds also relies on the sound fonts you use. That I will talk about that later. When you drag the MIDI file to the hint bar, you'll see these buttons. Let's experiment with them. The first one is easy to imagine how it would work. Start a new project. You can either start a blank project or append it to the existing one. For example, if I disable this, the next MIDI file will be loaded in the same project, but in a different group. The next button is Reline Events. Basically, it removes any silent part at the beginning. Again, depends on the source you got. A MIDI doesn't always have a space at the starts. As you can see here, the MIDI starts right away, unlike the previous ones that I showed you. Also, I'll be letting you listen to the MIDI when played with Flex and LSD so you can see the difference yourself. You must have known what import time signature would do, right? It's too obvious, I'm skipping that one. But before moving on to the next button, I would like to tell you that oftentimes the time signature automation in these MIDI files doesn't work, so be sure to play it twice. The fourth button is to create one channel per track. This may be confusing, so bear with me, okay? Its description says one channel per track or per MIDI channel? Like, bro, that isn't even a hint. That's a bloody question. I suppose FL Studio doesn't fully understand this as well. The way I understand is this: if you load a MIDI file and the import MIDI data board shows that the fourth button is enabled, that means whatever the shit you do, it won't change anything, whether you use Flex or LSD. But this happens, okay? If the board shows that the fourth button is disabled, you ought to be careful. It is best to leave it disabled. If you enable it, it would result in one sound playing everything. So TLDR, don't touch the fourth button. I'm saying this from my experience. I'm not making an academic essay or a documentary or anything, okay? The next button is way easier to understand than the last one. Set mixes tracks for new channels. This tells you that each channel will have its own mixed tracks. If you aren't so familiar with FL Studio, I will visually demonstrate it. This, however, can only work when you use Flex. This is what happens when you have it disabled. The channels are no longer routed to any mixer tracks. And sure, you can edit them while doing this, but why though? Why bother doing this when you can just have it done automatically in one click? Am I right? Also, you don't have this option when you go for LSD, and that's one of the advantages that Flex holds. But there's a reason for that. MIDI out doesn't naturally route to a mixer track, it rather ports to a fruity LSD. The final button is more or less as confusing as the fourth. They share the same principle though. But the name, let's listen to this. Import zero velocity note. What the fuck does that mean? Huh? And look at this hint. Don't treat note on messages with zero velocity as note off. Like, bro, what the fuck? Anyway, when the data board shows the fourth button is enabled, that means turning on or off the final button will not do anything. But if the fourth button is disabled again, yeah, turning on the final button will do this. Yeah, it only gives you the sound channels. It removes all the melody stuff. So again, TLDR, do not touch the final button. Now we move on to how to use MIDI out and Fruity LSD. These two are very closely related to each other. As you can imagine, their relationship is like that between a speaker and a sound produced by the computer. In this case, MIDI out is the speaker and Fruity LSD is the computer audio. Yeah, I'm gonna have Hecatia's theme played in the background so you don't get bored, okay? And here it is. This is Fruity LSD. It's really small, but don't judge its size. It can do a lot of work. As you can see, I'm using Roland GMGS sound set. I haven't installed any sound fonts or downloadable sounds, so I'm using that for now. This is the MIDI input port number. You can set it to any number. You just need to make it unique. I'm going for 8 this time. Would you look at that? That is a lot of sound and instrument. I'm going to pick one of these. Let me see. English horn sounds funny. Let's go for that. And now I have English horn on channel 1. Now open MIDI out. And the first thing you should do is link the output port number with the input one. I picked 8 last time, so now I scroll it to 8. Now let's hear what the English horn sounds like. And that was channel 1. Now onto channel 2, which is piano 1. Onto the 10th channel, which is standard or standard drum machine. I made that up, by the way. I want to close this video by showing you one of my favorite Toho OSD, Thundercloud of Magical Power. And that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and stay tuned for more videos like this. Bye bye.